Kujinsongeri connected kweyo. Twagala okubanga tutandikira.
Omuyiba agambye nti sebo president mbu asiba mu library Mirundi gye yakola mbu obutabo bwonna babutumyayo. Kano simanyi oba akamanyi. Killing a medical doctor to save a cause.
Ngani asiba mu library.
Mu president anonya butabo bwa Mirundi tufudde. Kakati kano kali dated 15 April 2013. Mukalaba. Nakakafu Mirundi ngena. Omuyiba balimba mbumbu wandikira wano mbuti buliyo.
Soza jakala zange garubindi nazireseyo.
Kaka nakabandikira kuzomeseka. Yes. Nakugamba nampandika kwa Akol. Akol ajja kudduka. Akol ajja kudduka. Run away. The moment she loses police protection, Akol will run away. Nabagamba nti introduction. Once upon a time, there lived the only one Shukobla in the entire city of Rome. As economic dynamics dictate, a pure monopolist enjoys a lot of privileges while he remains the sole provider of a service. This cobbler enjoyed immense influence and respect and was actually revered. Like other celebrities, he lacked discipline and often engaged in wrangles, fighting in bars and snatching other men's spouses. Because of his unique service in town, during one of the regular brawls, he killed a fellow patron and was arraigned before court. During his absence from the city, those with the need of his services suffered, and nobody took advantage of it, making him even more important. The day he was going to be sentenced, the courtroom was filled to capacity, and others followed proceedings from outside. Before passing the verdict, the judge perused through the evidence, incriminating the cobbler beyond reasonable doubt. It was clear that he was going to lose the case. The judge, however, asked the cobbler to tell the court in mitigation why he would not be penalized in accordance with the laws of Rome. The Roman tradition was that once convicted, he would pay by his own life death sentence. It was at this juncture that a man inside the courtroom stood up to raise an issue. I quote him. "I have something important to tell you, my lord," he said. The judge allowed him to proceed. I quote him again. "As you know, this is the only cobbler in this city. His demise will mean that we shall lose his services forever. All of us here know that if he dies, we shall suffer." The judge asked him what the court ought to do, given the crystal clear evidence against the cobbler, and in the face of the Roman tradition that had to be maintained. The man stood up again and clarified that although the Roman justice requires the convict to be killed, it did not mean that the killer himself would die. This meant that what was needed was to kill a person to satisfy the spirit of the dead. Therefore, under this arrangement, the cobbler could be saved by killing another person in order to satisfy the spirit of the one the cobbler had killed. The question was raised as to who would be killed instead of the cobbler. The man urged further that since there were many medical doctors in Rome, one should be killed in order to save the city's only cobbler. The suggestion was taken unanimously, and one of the medical doctors in Rome was killed to save the cobbler who had actually committed the murder. The above reminds me of the West Side director Grace Akol excuses her official duties. In her wisdom, she can leave the culprit to go scot-free and arrest or harass the innocent ones. She kills, in quotation, she kills the innocent medical doctor in order to save the powerful corrupt officials in government. She does not premise her judgment on fairness, as the Roman judge abandoned the traditional Roman practices of fairness and natural justice. Let me be clear. Katosi Road saga has attracted a lot of hot debate. However, Akol deliberately shielded the real wrongdoers. This has been a practice, using a network of shrewd younger men in both government and outside the government. Museveni barwana nabo kati nali nabalabadda. Kati Akol naye muwala bamufinyisa lubuto. Kati Museveni atamugoba mu ssomero. Bano keberi eri mu family ye yekola bino. Keberi muli linda abana boogere. Kyovula manina kikomeza nkikumya wano kati amanya ge boogera manene nga basi ababakozesa. Ntwe pusi yalumyeji yajumbi mulaba mu video ntwe pusi ngagamba babo batudde waggulu be batukozesa amakampuni gabaki fe tulimbwa nga neta kwa kusina yanyiga nga bamusosodde munabwe nabaga nti fe tuli ba slaves namwe mukirize tuli ba slaves bali be ba masters kakati onakulu
to ongati wali ku killing a medical doctor to serve a cobra cobra
omukubi wengato omukozi wengato ye yatta omuntu
Roma
nga yeye kaya ali mu kibuga Roma kakati omulamuzi bamugamba nti bwono tono cobra tuna ani anatukolera engatto n'omulamuzi yaga nti nezange ziyulise kubanga what you don't know omuntu atagenda ngako mu kibuga Roma ebyabunyo omusambu lwe luguudo lw'obujjo abaganda baluyitanga lwa bujjo luli mu kibuga Roma kati Roma bw'oba toyina ngatto amayinja ge baakola gakwokya ekisinziiro bw'eba winter era toyitamu. That's why this cobra was important. The second point nti era Italy ne Cuba be basinza badokita abangi era olaba baga nti tudde ku badokita abangi tusevinga eki up to today Italy ne Cuba be basinza nabaga nti okumanya aba Italy kana akawuka kafuludde kabakubirwaki sikwa sibagezi prime minister wabwe kazanyirizi muzinyi wa ndongo. Why? Nabaga nti mugende mubuuza abasawo ati sibane bange bibakimbulye basanga nkimanyi nti ekigambo Caesarean omukazi omulongooza kyava mu Julius Caesar. Kyalinga fa abaganda betuga nti gundi najja lwambi nti oyo mwana ya mama we yafanga amuzaala babitumanga abana ne bibera sogomanyize okusala twafuna kati wafeera akai kasaba kuga nti oyo yenna mwanje tugamba nti wango bawe yafa oyo iwasirimu namwandu twakikyusa abanna mwanje kati omwana wa myaka 16 afuuke namwandu yenna mwanje fe tuba tumanna mwanje omwami wali rudda nti ali bweru kati gwo obuuza agenda kuba kyeyo bali mmimwanje twakola phrases bana laka yali abakubiye byonna era nzamwe survivor. God has kept me waffe ku kyalo benenkanya nabe emyaka bonna baafa
sirimu.
Yes ndikogu era bwengende waffe ndaba abantu omukazi nakutunulya najjukira abana be nakapa tekuyinako kantu kyobola kakati ffe nabagamba nti omunna buddu nga bamuzadde asooka n'agenda jjajjawe n'amulondera n'amusalya kati kuno omulandi okukuba abantu guno tewali akwesittalako n'atagwa kana akasiko kana akasigalawo oluyira ne lukwata ako ne kasigala kaba kasigalirawo ki akuna kuba kajjako eddagala kaba kamutawaananyi tugenda tulonda nutulya bana mu abaana ab'amajani mumweregere kuze mu abaana ab'amajani kakati nkugamba nti Akol bwatyo bwakola
no obadde kyatuwa wali kuno nti badokita bangi
bajjako
kobula lyomu
kati Akol akolanga mu Roma nti president amugambye nti you make sure that ogundi tuli agenda and walichi inside abadde amantalira kwemuddi nti chai nga kabusenga kakuva changes in rare nga ye president alowooze nti beyalagidde babagobye kati yabiguddemu akula ina kudduka kabusenga ina kudduka kulubya ina kudduka. I'm telling you. That's why nakubidde omusajja egulu ne muganda ne mulooza mirundi mubi olooza ebifana byabwe bya zooming sibina bo bagenda ogenda ku zooming simanyi kakati baleese obugundi buli bwe buti babuteeka wano ne bakambaza nayogera ng'omukazi oba ng'omusajja kakati ngenda kubakubira awo obulire kakati owulira nabagamba nti Akol oluguudo lw'ekatosi yali Kabushenga n'Akol bali muntu omu Kabushenga n'Akol bali muntu omu
Akol abadde wa Saidi
nkubuulidde Kabushenga n'Akol bali omuntu omu oluguudo lw'ekatosi nkubuulira nenkugamba no ku luguudo lw'ekatosi any sensible person nkubuulira nenkugamba wulira Akol nenkugamba let me be clear. The Katosi road saga has attracted a lot of hot debate. However, Akol deliberately shielded the real wrongdoers. This has been her practice, using a network of shrewd younger men in both inside and outside the government who control the media in Uganda. They direct their focus to the medical doctor leading the murderer Kobula to escape justice. Any sensible person with such evidence on Katosi Road would know that Byandala wouldn't be taking the media attention he has received. The first culprit to face the attention of any balanced or impartial side director would be the managers of Housing Finance Limited. Housing Finance is not a bogus company. It's well known in Uganda. This means that by granting the guarantee, it had confirmed that it was a credible company. Why do we have guarantees? This is derived from court. If a person is going to be granted the bail, he must present credible sureties who can guarantee that he will not escape if given bail. Housing Finance was used because it was a reputable company in Uganda, capable of refunding the money. They did not use a suspectable company. Under the same court rules of bail, if those who stood surety to a person realize that the person could not be trusted, they go back to court and withdraw their responsibilities, and therefore the person loses the bail rights. When did the managers of Housing Finance realize that the company they had guaranteed was bogus? Oluguudo lw'ekatosi baalulanga muyinula ne bajja amakampuni agali fake ana gonna nga gali fake aga ana kakati secretary committee neewa tebasa abataasaba beyawa. The report is here. Ninda kafulumya ani yakola omusango weni andiki kakati Housing Finance ne garantinga nti bwe badduka ffe tusasula. An insurance company guaranteed. Kakati bano onakulu abasajja bamala okubba sente ne badduka. Akol teyakwata ku Housing Finance. Who guaranteed? If that man have stood surety bwabula nga bwe neeyimira Sebuufu nze ngenda era omulamuzi akubuuza alina amagezi. Do you understand the responsibilities of a surety? Didn't Housing Finance, how could of all companies this fake company yatubba sente z'ekatosi landed on Housing Finance?
Housing Financial Bank is a financial institution.
Yes.
A guarantee payment.
Naye bamala okubba sente Akol teyakwata Housing Finance. Naye Katonda nyambi nja kuttenta kati nsekazi sentemu 2 nakalema ne nalweyiso. Kweyiyo ngenda kugisala olwaleero Akol alla akundazeeko nga office totawana gendayo Akol oyina kudduka. Why did Kagezi die in front of Akol?
Si ya mutta.
Did Akol's escorts fire back?
No, si ya mutta. Akol.
Akol alla akundazeeko. Akol ate nali mwetegekedde n'akataasa kasidi nti ajja wange okunkwata mbuza sabiti gw'omulagidde nti wange yali tavaayo
obusungu nga bungi.
Secondly, no babanyabonyeza abantu bangi Byandala yatunda buli kintu kye kyonna nga kano kongera kuba kasajja kano ka New Vision editorial kaligirira mu katogo kasajja kujja kudduka. Secondly, does Grace Akol tell us that Byandala as the responsible minister was part of the housing deal? Why is it that her colleague Robert Kabushenga in the New Vision does not reveal this evidence in the negative stories about Byandala? The second culprit is the Solicitor General. As stated in the confidential report, he was our representative and expert detecting fraud. He has all the necessary facilities to detect fraud. Why is he not mentioned in these New Vision articles? Actually, both Grace Akol and the newspaper articles do not reveal Minister Byandala's direct involvement. Byandala natunda buli kakeko na aklo Kabusenga katimba mbasula mu lubiri ebbanda naye bajja kukwata Kabusenga toyinza kubonyabonya bantu abasajja bali abaana bazadde b'abaana bayokya essomero naye gamba. Furthermore, one of the managers of UNULA was facilitated with $50,000 to travel to USA to verify the credibility of the company. This man did not travel and did not refund the money, which is an offense. Why is it that he does not feature in any of Kabushenga's New Vision articles? Why has this not attracted the attention of Grace Akol, whose docket involves crime investigation? This biri 13 Allah kutuwa de Allah kusasud my daughter Akol nagenda ku channel 44 kayanja nango bako kubanga Akol yatuyamba nnyo ne kayanja ne yejiji dewo investigate kayanja again
ati
yes Akol but director abaside bo nabagala okuzibwa basomera wa kayanja mwali mu kitegedeke ekyo tibuli asomere wa kayanja Akula Akol mutani wa Mirundi yinza mwita ono omukazi gundi kajina akimanyi bulungi yagoba abaganda lusambu ntuli bashuma oba ekigambo lusuma yakisanga mu Luganda abalira okukinduka nakyo kya Luganda naye omusajja bamuwa $5,000 to travel to USA to verify oba companies zino gye twadde okukola Katosi Road nti gyeri teyagenda. The man is still in Uganda Revenue Authority. Yes, he's still there. Grace Akol, like the Roman judge, wants to save the murderous cobbler to crucify an innocent medical doctor. President Byandala amuze ku mulima mu minister. Once the involvement of housing finance managers is revealed and the man who did not travel to USA, then dragging Byandala will not succeed. In order to protect housing finance managers, the Solicitor General and the other culprits, Grace Akol targeted Byandala. Interestingly, Akol, with her media allies, has played this game for a long time. Take for example, Permanent Secretary, Minister of Health, Asumani Lukwago. Lukwago's mistake was to refuse to surrender Butabika hospital plots to the thieves in the government. In their usual practice, they framed a corruption charge against Lukwago. They claimed that Lukwago wanted to pay a bogus company $500,000. They further alleged that he had authorized that payment, which also claimed by the National Drug Authority, that the money would instead go to Akol to Lukwago's bogus company instead of the right owners of the National Drug Authority. This was a big mistake on the part of these thieves, including Akol. You see, an arrogant group overlook reasoning. If Lukwago paid a bogus company instead of a genuine one, how could he explain this? Where the people behind the bogus company through which Lukwago wanted to defraud the government, why didn't Grace Akol wait for Lukwago to sanction the payment and arrest the signature to the account? Who would reveal Lukwago's involvement? These are salient questions to a sensible side director. Using Kabushenga in a New Vision, Akol tried all efforts to put Lukwago behind the bars. However, the president had already detected earlier intentions. He was monitoring Grace Akol's activities, and Museveni's trusted intelligence was monitoring Grace Akol. In 2013, Akol's moves and meetings with the likes of Robert Kabushenga, Museveni had personally identified Asmani Lukwago. He knew him very well. There was no way Museveni could listen to Grace Akol's nonsense and Lukwago bounce back. Yaddayo mu ministry ne yera bamulwanyisa kuba bali munju Diana yatuulawo Diana yatuulawo
omukazi nga omuyiga kuva
era Diana yatuulawo. I knew these people. I went there nabatunuulira obujozi bwabwe mbakubye ku ttaka temuddangamu kujooga muntu ate bali tebamanyi background yange. I'm one of the best trained spies here. Banzija wano nga n'emyaka nga 16 oba 17.
Ne bakutwalawo.
Ompita wakuzanya. Nenkutule bwenti nkusoka natunuulira omukono mutunuulira bwajooga. Munalweyiso nalina wano ku Lwomukaaga. Oyo mugambe embwe yeve wompiseewo se nali mwetegekedde mu nyondo mwaso omutwe nazaala wanziti. I had made my will. Ngonjooga otya gwe nalaba ng'oyambala engattezo olumu. Namulaba wano mu mawulire nga mwavu muzibu. Ojogeze
katunanyo issue yange ku nsonga ya mchala kulejeyogede kwali ku nsonga ikatusi katunanyo abadde yali tayinza butakwata ingini ya byandala nga yali minister ate agende ku company ya standing surety
kankubulize no gwetozanya nange nkubulya nenkugamba in deep analysis of the genesis and how to come over the fraud from the start of the procurement process. Kakati tebe eno yakolebwa yinule ejirina naye bagikweka president bakubuulira tebe ene kutegeeza prime mistake or crime ne bakubulya time kwe yakolerwa person is responsible and evidence bamanyi ababulugudo lwekatosi byandala wabwerere naye kasajja kano nemukasamulule kamukuba akakasajja kadde
eyo information
nange kankuva
president yajifu
ojja kudduka mulenzi gwoyina kudduka ng'ennyanja ekyateese tayinza kubeerawo nakulo tayinza kubeera wano kati kankulaga akulo ogwokubiri okulo kye yakola nti nakugamba wano nti akulo and Asongo allies in the media Robert Kabushenga secondary kakati walabe ekintu ekirala nankuwa this was done to ensure that the credible companies were avoided. However, the mafia group in the government and the allies in the media executed the deal, and like the Roman judge, they deliberately spared the murderer's cobra medical doctor. The bicycle scam bears all the hallmarks of the Ugandan mafia. Ngoro kutolwe katosi omanye gati kyebakola mu 7 nezino radio tezijja kujja president kamubuli radio zeyagambye ogula tebagenda zigula batisiza sente bazibbe nga baba mukola ku gari kati ye kambabulire
era ajja kumanya ati abati bafunye
toy waliwo ekintu they are not supporters of Museveni. Oh, they are idiots. Bwebata banga basiru kuba abaganda bakugamba tote matabi kuotudde. It's common sense. Bo balowooza nti gavumenti eno bwegwa Museveni nagwa basigalawo ensi bamanyi ensi yabakyawo they are hated. Naye amawulire tegababuulirako katega yaŋŋamba nti twavaana tugenda eruweero naye twali tetumanyi nti obuta abaganda bamukyawa nnyo naye twasanga bamukyawa nnyo abantu bano tebamanyi nti ensi yabakyawo. Egurupu etaweza abantu 20 noleeta omwana buli omu aleeta mwana we naye mu ekyo abantu mwaza tetulina ssente kuleeta abaana baffe mu kampeyini naye tubalize tubalinda muwunye muggweeyo n'omwana muleete okuba n'enadduli oleete noono naawe oleete muwalabo noono aleetaani ensi yabaleka muwunye. Don't think that you are the most wealthy people, you are the most intelligent people, your children are highly intelligent. No, ensi yabaleka muwunye. Abezimbabwe ne baseka bwe bati nti olusalo likwani tikumuganda wa Museveni na kumwala wako Tesa. You think people are fools? Obaba abaleka bulesi abasezi balwanira omulambo gwabo
abantu babitegera
nabaga nti eyaleeta ekigambo mufaliso yakijjawa nti omunyankole tayogera kigambo mufaliso. If you want to detect the cannibals, throw to the dead body. Osebalitinga abakwatibwa ekitambo n'abatali basezi
kastabalabu mulambo ekitambo kikwata
nze nkugamba the Bank of Uganda conduct was spared. Omanya omusajja eyabba sente z'obugaali nkugamba. What about the bicycle scandal? It is probable that the former local government permanent secretary wanted to get money from this project. Yali mukomera. But how was it that he was the only one who went to prison? The permanent secretary Kashaka fell into Grace Akol's trap, which Lukwago did not. When you look at the short listed companies by Kashaka, they include those who had nothing to do with the bicycles. 2. If you want to buy bicycles, why don't you go to credible companies like Hero, Lale, or Avon? If you deal with such companies and their agents, they do not operate on corruption. In fact, one of the companies that had been shortlisted to supply bicycles was Fishernet. President Wabagambo Gulegali bamutandikirawo. Bagandika to solicitinga amagali. Tewali company yamanyi gye basolicitinga. Singa omusajja akugamba nti njagala amabaati. Banemba wadde okusereka emizikiti. Mugenda wa manufacturer. The manufacturers mukaaga ani Uganda bati ani kati bayina ne wholesale gundi. Jogena n'ogula abatunda college gundi nabaga nti pharmacy is an outlet of a drug manufacturing company. Kati nabano bwe bakola egaali za president bwe yaziragira Kashaka bwe yalanga bana supplying egaali ya shortlisted company mwali mu Fishernet. Fishernet ngegule egaali temwali mu Hero temwali mu Avon temwali mu Lale
yali egenda kusuubula
ngegulaki
on top of there wakati tuli mu Tamale Mirundi abadde atukubira torch mu vunanyizibwa bwa mukyala akulu wadde atambuza emabega kawo nga tunaba kugambibwa kudda mu KCCA oluvannyuma lw'omukulembeze gwanga okuwabula nti yandibadde interviewing bw'okuddamu okufuuka director wa human resource
yavuluga egaali za Museveni. Grace Akol and a strong ally in the media, Robert Kabushenga. Secondly, Bank of Uganda was involved in the same way. Housing finance has been used in the Katosi saga. The Bank of Uganda conduit was spared. He wrote a letter to the Indian Chamber of Commerce, ostensibly to inquire about the suitability of the bicycle supplier. The Indian Chamber of Commerce informed him that the man was not a bicycle supplier, but as a businessman, he could do it. Why did the Bank of Uganda accept to deal with such a person? What was the purpose of the inquiry? Olama abasajja bano babala. Sente z'obugali bagenda zibba. Kino ekibbi ekiri mu Bank of Uganda. Kyo inquiringa egindi. Eyindi ya golozenti due diligence. Naye bakibuulidde abachemba of commerce ye India ti omusajja gwe mwagala okubaguza eggaali si supplier wa gaali talina kuna but as a businessman abasajja bakubuulidde ekyo kikyaliyo mu Bank of Uganda ekyo gye kiri nga kino ekyabba dola emitwalo 5 kikyali mu ginula aklo ebibala byakulo negamu nti inquiry ya Bank of Uganda was intended to defend this idiot in case the deal backfired. What was the intention of the inquiry? He just wanted to deceive the unsuspecting Ugandan public that he conducted an effort to verify. If Bank of Uganda wanted to prove the credibility of the bicycle supplier and the Indian Chamber of Commerce tells you that the money does not manufacture or deal in bicycles, why do you go ahead to release the money? Any sensible person in the Bank of Uganda would smell a rat. He would look for somebody who is linked to bicycle manufacturing. If you want to get a reliable supply of milk, do you go to a rabbit farmer? Because they are all of cold farmers. This was intended to cover their footmarks, deceivers. Therefore, if the Bank of Uganda official was looking for fairness, he would not have allowed a Kadei to take that deal. The only intention was to prove in the future that there were attempts to verify. We do this in journalism. In order to avoid to be charged with publishing false news, which has been outlawed, we used to conclude our articles by saying that efforts to verify the story were futile. The law required that if a journalist made efforts to verify a story which comes out to be false, she would escape punishment if there were efforts to verify it. This is what the Bank of Uganda idiot thief wanted. However, what Grace Akol failed to do was to convince the public why the Bank of Uganda man who had taken time to find out details about the supplier in India paid the Indian man through a local account without authorization from the Indian man. Lwaki omuyindi tebamusasulira waabwe? Lwaki sente zagenda musambike ne bazibayo? Akol teyakwata kuwa bank. No, Akol as usual. Ye atta dokita nalekawo kobula. Akol. Does Akol give us evidence that the Indian man contacted the Bank of Uganda that payment be paid through a local agent? Even if it was there, how could somebody be paid without assurance that the bicycles had been delivered to Uganda? Brave Grace Akol. Nachiwandika mu 2:10. Brave Grace Akol. Kati ababa kati baduseda. Ne baba esimbye konto ya pusi yaga temujja tusibira bwerere. Ne bawali kibaga nti twatula n'omuvubuka gwe bagobye mu Revenue Authority naye agambye no. Ekisera kituuse okubaatula nabo baatidde
okwatula bandi
ababakozesa abannanyini makampuni nabo baatidde bagenze mu meeting imbalaba bo bali waggulu mu chemba waggulu bantu bali ntuyepusinaga na wano batujogerawo ntuyepusi yalidde obuwuka na wano batujogerawo Mirundi yabalaba ddanti bajoze ntuyepusi kati ampita gentleman. That gentleman is highly intelligent. You made a mistake and you are paying for it. You underestimated this man. Mwali njise buli magoti yonna singa mayumba agamuta gaina na nkoko etakula. You kill me. Every maggot fights the enemy. Atawo mwabala nnyo singa temuyina singa mayumba gabanene abamuti muli mwana. Nkugamba waliwo yasudde naye abantu balalo babamba Tamale so waliwo yasudde akaveera kabiye wange nenga kakati ono ndizo kuvuza nyuma yona nage unanunya kufa kubate oyo science
oyo gobu singa science
mbagambye mu muteekao maloko okumanya
ogenzo kugulawo
wambwa watudde ko mu kaveera bakachiko obaba n'abasajja abasomba ebintu bakikola bana basomba gabeji ndiba chikola
mayoko lwacho luzate basomba gabeji
kiso tewali ali sense basobola kola bintu ebyo kamanda
kamanda wedogoti
kamanda wabyo nkugamba what is this thief in the Bank of Uganda did not did is comparable to a cattle trader who finds a Muyima man in Kampala and assumes that he's a cattle keeper and pays him money before ascertaining that he had cows. However, like in the Roman scenario, Akol, to prove that she was a hard-working side director, arrested the permanent secretary and left the Bank of Uganda official. The permanent secretary would not have stolen the money if it was not released by Bank of Uganda. If it was actually a criminal offense, why didn't the side director keep an eye on this Sambik account through which government was defrauded and arrested those who were to go to withdraw the money? Grace Akol always wants the money to be stolen and takes action. She waits the ghost to be stolen and protects the ropes. People like Grace Akol should not underestimate the thinking and understanding of Ugandans. 2. Relying on newspaper reports or media popularity does not make sense. We have in mass communication what we call the gun bullet theory and the two-step flow. During the First World War, British war strategists used propaganda to win the war. As a result, media scholars in Britain came up with the gun bullet theory, and a propaganda campaign was as effective as a bullet. This was reinforced when in 1964 a bullet tore through President John Kennedy's body and also killed his bodyguard. Mbulira Akol. However, earlier in 1924, USA held a presidential election. This election was important because the country had made reforms. The women were voting for the first time in USA. All of the media institutions supported one candidate who was decisively defeated. The media scholars went back to the drawing board and came up with the two-step flow theory that dictates that people, readers, listeners, do not swallow whatever the media vomits. Take for example the Kirumira money scandal. The Kirukula district leaders decided to return money not used in the financial year to Bank of Uganda as required by the law. Their bank was Baroda. The money was removed from Mumbalala branch of Baroda to Kampala branch, which was expected to limit it to the Bank of Uganda. According to media reports, as the money was on its way to Bank of Uganda, the Baroda Kampala manager got a letter from a Mufere, a mafia, to divert the money to Kirumira's account as opposed to earlier Kirukula instruction to take the money to Bank of Uganda. The Baroda bank manager obliged and diverted the money to Kirumira's account. Unlike people like Grace Okulo, who believe that Kirumira was the culprit, not the Baroda bank manager, people like Mirundi, the son of Mirundi, who have been following Akulo's practices and conduct, we can raise the following questions. 2013, nature Kirumira Akulo ya Chidibaga, yakwata mulala. Abasajja b'ekirugula president gyazaalibwa nga kankoze bubikano kajjudde tukakebere mulabe mujjeko ebimu bino ebintu abaliddawo bali bisoma ne guno mutwe eki nakitegeera nti wano okiraba nti Kirumira abasajja b'ekirugula president gye bamuzaala
ab'ekirugula bava ku kyokuyisa sente
bagamba nti sente zikubye emputtu. Once you fail to use the money, all of the money, you return it to Bank of Uganda. Kakati ab'ekirugula baali babbi ne badya banka ne bawandika ebbaluwa sente ziddayo mu Bank of Uganda. Sente zigenda mu banka egindi zigenda mu banka embalala Baroda. Bwe zituuka e Kampala, manager wa Baroda n'afuna ebbaluwa gyaga nti ya mufere ngemuga nti ebbaluwa ziteeke ku Kirumira's account. Omusajja Kirumira ne bajja ne bamugamba sebo Kirumira
is a district
omanyi nti ffe tuli basajja badinka naye tulina sente zaffe zetwagala okuyisa ku account yo tukuwako $5,000,000 nga Kirumira takkiriza
businessman
bwe baamala okujjako ezaabwe Akulo yakwata Kirumira ne mubuuza wano Akulo wano if the money was on its way to Bank of Uganda and the reason for this had been clearly disclosed, how could the manager Baroda Bank, Kampala branch, divert it? If a sensible manager at the level of Baroda manager received two conflicting instructions, what would he do? He obviously would have consulted the leaders of Kiruhura district to find out whether they had changed their earlier instructions. Even if they had done so, this would have been a matter of contention. In this era of money laundering, no serious and no sensible bank manager would be willing to be used as a matter that would adversely erode the credibility of the Baroda Bank. 2. What is the relationship between the Bank of Uganda and Kirumira's account? This is a bank and Kirumira is an individual. This would also cause concern from any sensible bank manager. If the Kirukura people had decided to return the money to Bank of Uganda, they had cleared all of their suppliers, including Kirumira, if Kirumira was a supplier, if he had supplied or offered services to Kirukura district. More importantly, why did the Baroda manager allow a controversial payment to go through without questioning it? We do not have any information to the effect that those who withdrew the money from Kirumira's account were put to task until the money was withdrawn. This applied in the bicycle scandal, where Akol also raised her ugly head. The Stanbic Bank officials allowed the money to be withdrawn from the account. in the bicycle scandal and aid the government. However, in Lukwago's case, the money had not been paid to the alleged bogus company. This is because they knew that taking such a funds was risky and they will easily be exposed. What they did was to stop the payment to make Asumani Lukwago safe and force him out. Asumani alidde nkoko omukazi oyo Akol kabushenga kulubya tebayinza kubeera wano. Temwategera lwaki Byandala yasingolinga mu mwana wa New Vision gwe yakuba ekikondo. You didn't understand. Lisanga ne kabushenga na yetu ate yakola ensobi tayinza kulinnya kakiri tayinza kulinnya nanzi gabaganda mbono omulenzi w'emmengo bwe babeera ono omulenzi w'emmengo atukwata kuki
kati ku kino
oyo omulenzi w'emmengo nzo olunaku kasa yakwata empologoma
mulenzi kigugamba
najolekeza ekifaananyi kya Bikira Maria omukatuliki ekyo ekifaananyi kisaaga yaddira empologoma najolekeza ekifaananyi kya Bikira Maria empologoma eyo ku mulembe guno yali badde rotatinga nga n'abantu baga nti bwetunulaawo ziba ssaawa 6 bwetunulaawo ne bavage naye ejolekeza Bikira Maria mulenzi gwe kankukubireko mu ngalo kati akaddiye yenna alinga ebyende ebikama.
Oyinza okubanga olowooza nti okujja Grace Akol eri mu CID okuleetebwa eno demotion nga bamulesa ate cleaninga KCCA.
Kakati laba eno magazini yange Yellow Times nagiwandiika ki eno Yellow Times eriko mwaka ki wano wetutegeera 2015 new probe on Cairo Bank no side director new government probe on Cairo Bank OPM scandal naye eyo scandal era Grace Akol namuteekawo wuno mu kifaananyi ekiraba judge blames side for Cairo Bank scandal mu judgment eno gyolaba era omulamuzi Kabiito yagamba nti side ye yatta omusango. 45% of the Cairo money, 45% of the Cairo money belongs to Ugandan government. Niba nenze nakyebunyiza abasajja abalibya abali mu lutalo ne basalawo bateeke sente mu banka yaabwe Tropical Banka era sebo babasabye enguzi abalibya babasabye enguzi bano si bantu muzeyi nawe ayingirewo bana abakolako na vero nabo babasabye enguzi nga sente ziyingira ate nina kesi yenyezo kubulira y'omwana gwe babaka kakadde ka sente nga azisize wantu bano bamulagidde ate mu babbi bannaabwe tizifuule nti payment y'aba lawyers omwana ne bamutta ne briefcase ne bagitwala abo president yayirira eddala kakati enjaga mukimanyi nti era minister ya health yegaba permission okutunda enjaga kakati ezo
kujirima
bajja ne bakiretanga ekiri open. What did they do? Era amakampuni gaabwe agatunda enjaga ebweru nemwe mwabalidde mulika nti ensebaagala
wenjagala otunuze
nti ensebaagala
wenjagala otunuze mu Uganda kino
bali abavuka ba red paper bose banenya bo bakazanyiriza. I don't take red paper seriously. Niyo olupapula lwa government arrest Byandala yakuba editorial Kabusengo ligirira mu Katogo Kabusengo ligirira mu Katogo
kakati katono nnyo Museveni kakati ekiseera kye kino azukusa akwate byabadde ayogera Museveni
government yabadde egenda kugwa uli abantu abo banjogerako. Waliwo mukwano gwange yansuubiza emmotoka omanyi kibi okusuubiza omuntu yansuubiza emmotoka leka kulwana na mukazi wombo batugitwala tukitwala kakati ate obusajja bugikime kuba nyinza ojjukuleetesa ng'ogivuga ekirera ne parking ewange kwate emmotoka vuga emmotoka yange gireeta ewaka.